almost halfway through baseball season. We have a fresh set of power rankings from our very own Matt Snyder that just dropped. The Tigers back at that #1 spot for the 3rd straight week. We're seeing some other teams kind of make a push towards that top spot. The biggest riser, that goes to the Diamondbacks, up 7 spots to number 15. They are 9-4 in the month of June. Excuse me, number 14. I'm sorry, Diamondbacks. I didn't mean to snub you there from 1 spot. The biggest faller, that goes to the Cardinals, down 8 spots to number 17 after losing 7 of their last 8. And the baseball breaking news gods were just absolutely popping off over the last 24 hours or so, because first the Giants and the Red Sox agreeing to this blockbuster trade that sends Rafael Devers, to the Giants. After all the DH third base drama that we were following with Devers to kick off the season, and then something we haven't said in quite some time, since August of 2023 to be exact, where Shohei Ohtani is going to get the start for the Dodgers tonight when they host Dylan Cease and the Padres. Let's welcome in Matt Snyder and Will Middlebrooks, where Showtime is going to be on the mound, gentlemen, for the first time since 2023. If we're talking about it in terms of power rankings, the Dodgers sitting at number 4 in those rankings. Matt, I'll come to you first. We know Shohei is coming back from a bit of an injury. It's been a while since he's pitched, but how much of a boost is this going to give the Dodgers here, as it's a very tight race in the NL West?
Well, it should be a big one eventually, because it's going to take him a second to build up. Last we heard, there was 3 innings and 44 pitches in a simulated game. It's a really weird situation, because usually when a pitcher's coming back from major elbow surgery, he'll go on that minor league rehab assignment. He'll have 4 or 5 outings, build himself up. But the Dodgers need him in the lineup, so they can't send him down. So he has to try to work his way up. It's going to be a process here. I don't expect that he'll go more than 50 pitches in this outing, so maybe 3 innings or so. But also, that doesn't really hurt them, because they don't have to add him to the pitching side of the roster. They already have him on the roster as a DH. So again, it's just a weird situation. And the reason I said eventually it'll help them move up, the only reason they're not number 1 right now is because they've been so ravaged by injuries to the pitching staff. And yesterday we heard from Dave Roberts, they're planning to have no Roki Sasaki the rest of the season. Snell and Glasnow have shoulder injuries. You don't know how that's going to go. Gonsolin, elbow inflammation after he just came back from Tommy John surgery. You don't know how that's going to go. Kasparis has been great. Kershaw looks okay in his last couple starts. Yamamoto's been excellent overall, but they still need more depth there. So eventually this will really help them.
Yeah, so first things first, for me, this is great for the game of baseball, right? Because you have one of these players that we're going to talk about until the end of time, for as long as baseball's a thing. We're going to talk about Shohei Ohtani. I think it's pretty cool. He's coming back from his 2nd major arm surgery, and he finds himself back on the mound. And to Matt's point, look, this is out of necessity that he's coming back this early. I wasn't expecting to see him until maybe after the All-Star game, to be honest, for him to be fully built up. But 14 pitchers on the IL, that'll do it, right? And to Matt's point also, in his last simulated game, he threw 3 innings, 44 pitches. He probably won't go past that mark, around 50, I would think. But this also gives the Dodgers a massive advantage, because we talk about all the arms they're without right now with the injuries, and the guys have been covering a lot of innings. But this gives them an extra pitcher. So on your roster, you can have a max of 13 pitchers. If you have a 2-way player, now you have 14. So this gives them just an extra, even if it's 3 innings, an extra 3 innings that can be covered.
So that was one huge story, of course, that we saw last night, and then, of course, the other with Rafael Devers. And, well, I'll come to you in just a moment with the Red Sox side of things, but I want to talk about the Giants, right? And Matt here, they get Rafael Devers in this blockbuster trade, and we know the Giants just 2 games back from the Dodgers to take the lead of the division, and they've been kind of creeping right there. I feel like the Dodgers have been looking over their shoulder at the Giants here. Maybe an unexpected sort of season for the Giants that we're seeing. They're 8 in your power rankings, Matt. So do you think Devers is that piece to kind of push them over the edge?
They've been begging for a big bat in the middle of that lineup for years. Remember, they were hard after Aaron Judge. They were in on Juan Soto. They were in on Shohei Ohtani a little bit. And this was one where the player didn't really have a choice in matters. There was no trade clause from Devers. The Giants went out. They swung big. They got their guy in Devers. He immediately becomes the most impactful hitter on the team. Now, the park shift from Fenway to Oracle Park, his numbers will dip a little bit at home, but he still is, look, on-base percentage travels everywhere. Batting average pretty much travels everywhere. He's still going to hit his fair share of home runs there when he's at home. And obviously he'll have some road games where he can feast, like in Chase Field and in Coors Field, which are good hitter environments. Giants are only 2 back in the National League West, and they were missing a big bat in the middle of that lineup. And how about this? Giants first baseman this year hitting .202 with only a .335 slugging percentage. Even if Devers goes down from where he was with the Red Sox, he's a huge upgrade right there in the middle of that lineup.
Yeah, the Giants 12-1 you saw there to win the division. Will, I'll come to you on the Red Sox side of things because this is a team that kind of looking like a team that's playing well. You sweep the Yankees, can sneak your way in, be a wild card team, and then you trade away this superstar. What do you make of the move, especially as it pertains to the timing of all of it?
Well, Jacqueline, I absolutely hate it, and I think a lot of people will echo that. To your point, this is awful timing on so many different levels. They've won 5 straight. They finally got this train back on the tracks. They're back, and I know it's mid-June right now, but we're talking about them being back in striking distance of a playoff spot. They have this young roster now they're even younger now. They just swept the Yankees, right? You're finally pulling the fan base back in after the expectations were so high. They played so poorly, and now they're starting to play good baseball again, and you trade your best player. He leads you in home runs and RBIs. There's no one even relatively close to him in RBIs. And look, I understand Devers made ownership angry. Would him playing first base have been better for the flexibility of the roster? 100%. Does he duck the media? Yeah, he does. I think he hasn't upheld the responsibilities that come with a $300+ million contract, and I get that. But does getting rid of his offensive production help much? I just don't. I think in the city of Boston, in that market, and the way things have gone over the last 3-4 seasons, winning has to be more important than anything. And I feel like this hurts the team in a big way. And my last question, and we're going to get more answers later as today goes on, is there's a press conference with the front office. But why not wait until you're closer to the trade deadline and maximize the value of that? Because I don't think they got even relatively close to enough for a player that is Rafael Devers. And I know they picked up the money. I know that. I know they're picking up $240+ million. But you need to get more talent back when you're giving up this type of production.
Yeah, I agree. They could have shopped him a little bit more. The reports are indicating that they weren't really shopping him, and all of a sudden they just talked to the Giants and just made the deal kind of within a day. Why aren't you going to other teams and saying, hey, what are you going to give for him? I don't get that. But just a little quick glimpse behind the curtain here. I usually do the team comments after their Sunday game concludes, and after they beat the Yankees, I wrote down like, hey, here the Red Sox come right now. They're hot right now. They just needed to play the Yankees. They've won 5 in a row against the Yankees. You know they're feeling good in that clubhouse. And then a couple hours later, I was like, all right, I guess I need to add to this comment because they just traded their best player. Really, really weird. I feel like the clubhouse would probably be, and Will could speak more to this than I could because he's actually been in a clubhouse as a player, but I feel like you would be shell-shocked a little bit. Like you finally felt like, hey, we've been inconsistent this year, but now we're going right now. Now we're jumping right back into the AL East race. This is how the players would feel. And I believe they're only a half game out of the wild card in the AL. So I can't imagine the players feel good right now with that flight all the way from Boston to Seattle, hearing, maybe even by the time they landed, hearing that their best player got traded.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because they were on the flight. I went home for 3 days, and then I'm meeting them. I'm in Seattle now. They were on the tarmac. They were on the flight, about to take off. The plane was moving, and they had to stop the plane, go back to the gate, and let him off the plane. So it was
oh, boy.
Quite the scene, yeah, in front of everyone. There's a lot of shock, right? And you talk about, was there an issue in the clubhouse? How does the clubhouse feel? I think there was a much more disconnect between him and ownership, him in the front office. I think the teammates, he wasn't necessarily, quote unquote, a bad teammate. The guys just kind of chalked it up to, it's just Rafi being Rafi, right? That's just kind of how it is. But he's producing, and he wasn't a bad teammate one-on-one or like in the clubhouse. Like he got along with everyone. Now, does everyone read the the wording on the wall? Like it's like, okay, yeah, could he help us if he played first base? Yeah, he could. But he's also at the time, top 1 or 2 in RBIs in the game, and it's like, well, you want him healthy. You want him on the field for 162. He's not hurt. All these years he's played defense, he always goes and has IL stints where he misses time and you miss his production. So it was kind of like, he's raking right now. It's not a problem within the clubhouse. You kind of just let him go do his thing. But there becomes such a big disconnect with the front office, and I think it turned into an ego, just an ego thing, honestly. And then they said, you know what, if you're not going to listen to us, we're giving you all this money, we're going to get rid of you.
And the Red Sox, as you mentioned, Will, facing the Mariners tomorrow and Wednesday. But then after that, the storylines just write themselves as the Giants and the Red Sox have a 3-game set on deck kicking off on Friday, June 20th. Guys, we certainly appreciate it talking about all the biggest headlines in baseball, getting a look at the bottom half of the power rankings, 21 through 30. We got the Royals in there. Our Mets producer, Jack, wants to remind me that the Atlanta Braves are there at 23, but we moved up 3 spots. We didn't completely sweep the Rockies, but we did some damage there, so I have some faith, and we're facing the Marlins coming up shortly, so that should be a nice sweep. Yeah, you can find all of Matt's power rankings over on CBSSports.com, by the way.